Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to Football Heritage TV. Whoever you are, wherever you are. And as Charlie and I were talking backstage, we were talking about how hyperbolic the world of football is right now. How hyperbolic. Everyone needs to be sacked. Everybody's rubbish. No managers are good. All the new signings in the summer are absolute flops. Charlie, welcome to the show. How are you, mate? You good?
Yeah, good, mate. Not bad at all. All good.
Good. Let's talk about that for a couple of minutes before we go into some of the things we're going to talk about. We're going to look at Chelsea. We'll look at Liverpool, Crystal Palace, Sunderland doing great. Spurs had a bit of a nightmare. Arsenal closing the gap. Big guns winning them big games. I just want to have a quick chat first, Charlie. We were talking backstage about this, and I get it, right? Like, we are content creators and people engagement farm, you could say. But I've always liked to think I'm not someone that just says ridiculous things. And at the moment right now, Charlie, I'm seeing Spurs fans post things like, is Thomas Frank a fraud? I'm seeing Chelsea fans say Maresca is poor and needs to be sacked. Aren't we bordering now on this is literally game to game? Fans have no actual opinion, so they just swing from game to game.
Yeah, no, I don't want to group all fans into that bracket, but there is very much a strong case for that. That I think people feel now to be heard, they've got to have an extreme opinion at one end of the scale or the other end. There seems to be a real lack of nuanced conversation about, okay, well, look, this manager's done X, Y, Z, but then I feel he could improve in these areas. But overall, that doesn't warrant a couple of losses, meaning that he needs to go. There's just a real lack of, I don't want to call people unintelligent, but I think there's a high level of unintelligence amongst a lot of people when it comes to discussing football. I'm not sitting here that's saying my opinion or your opinion is better than anybody else's opinion, but there is very much, people just don't seem to think. They seem to feel that, you've got to be extreme to get your views heard, but that isn't the case. Look, people view football however they want to view it, but if you've got an opinion, you then need to be able to back that opinion up. You need to suggest viable alternatives. What I've had in the past, mate, is, manager's got to go, and I say to people, okay, who's a realistic replacement? And their response is they don't have one, and they say that's not my job. Well, then how can you have so how can you have an opinion with no sort of and suggest no alternative, and then just use, well, it's not my job to find an alternative,
mate? I just find it crazy. Look, like as a Spurs fan, right, watching the weekend, it was awful, Charlie. It was awful. I think
at least didn't lose, mate.
Right? No, sure. But my point is, it was awful. There's no excusing it. The manager got it wrong. The manager needs to learn from it. But oh my gosh, what I've seen in the 48 hours or so since we lost that game is just unbelievable. Xavi Simons is the worst footballer ever. Do you know what? Xavi Simons has played something like 350 minutes of football for Tottenham Hotspur. He's the worst signing ever, right? Thomas Frank, he's got to go. He's a fraud. Like, what? Like, how have we got here? Because if we followed this pattern, Charlie, what we're saying is every 5 to 10 games, managers would get sacked.
Mate, you've got to have like 3 or 4 managers a season based on the way that some people are going on. Like, you basically have a manager every 10 games. Or what people are really looking for is you just have a rolling contract on a game by game basis for a manager. Just rolling contracts game by game. People are so reactive. And I get it, at times when emotions are high after a game, you might say things that once you've slept on it, that maybe you would row back on a little bit, with a more clearer mind. But this situation where people feel the need, they've got to be so divisive, they've got to be so reactive. It's just like, when you actually challenge those views, that like you can deconstruct them very quickly and find out that it's basically a straw hat argument because they've got nothing to bring with it.
Do you know what? I wouldn't mind, Charlie. Let me read you a couple of statistics, right? About a list about my club, and then we'll talk about some other football things. Spurs right now, let's be fair, last year we lost 22 league games and finished 17th.
Yeah,
So the only teams worse than us got relegated.
And they were horrendous, by the way.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. Right. This season, by the way, I'm not going, oh my God, we're top 4. It's early days, but we're 4th in the table, right? We've lost 1 game in the league and 1 game out of 9 competitive games with Thomas Frank. 1, which was 1-0, by the way. No one's battered us. We've been beaten.
Oh, that was the Bournemouth game, yeah?
Yeah. We've been beaten 1-0 once, right? We've got the second best defense in the Premier League, second best joint defense in the Premier League. And we've scored the 3rd amount of goals joint with you lot in the Premier League, right? We've won our first Champions League game. We won our League Cup game. We're in the top 4, right? And the head loss, Charlie, honestly, I have to keep checking the table. I seriously feel that when I listen to some Spurs fans talk, I feel like we're bottom. I feel like we're rock bottom. It's like this. It can't go 17th to we're the best team in the league in 3 months of a manager. I'm just honestly, I'm just dumbstruck at times. I truly am.
Yeah, mate. It's hard to understand. But people need to understand as well, by the way, that you're not going to suddenly improve overnight. You were one of the worst teams in the Premier League last season. Yeah. You're not going to suddenly, new manager, go to challenging for Champions League football from 17th place. You're going to be much better this season. You are much better than you were last season already, but it's going to take time. We went from 12th to 6th and then 6th to 4th. It might take you a couple of seasons to get back into the top 4, top 5. And that should be expected. I don't know where this divine right comes from, that when you've been the 4th worst team in the Premier League last season, that suddenly you're going to switch from that and you're going to be one of the 5 or 6 best teams in the league straight away. Do people not understand how football works and how it takes time to integrate ideas, build a team, get used to playing together? It doesn't happen overnight.
Why can it never be a bad day at the office? Why is it always got to be, we didn't play well, oh my God, he's a fraud? And by the way, this is FCB is right. This weekend alone, I've seen Ange out, Slot out, Maresca out, Frank out. I get it with Amorim, by the way. I get it with Amorim.
Amorim, other club, Amorim's gone. He would have gone already. Why he's still there, I've got no idea.
Not one of these people here. Not one of these people. Let's break this down. Arne Slot is top of the Premier League table and the current manager of the Premier League winners. Ange Postecoglou, as funny as I think it is, and with Wolfie and all, he's been there for 5 games. Like, you can't bring a manager in and go.
I mean, I am loving it, but yeah, he's been there 5 games, and it's ridiculous, really.
Right, Maresca, for all of this talk, is 3 points off the top 3, right? And 3 points off the top 3, got top 4 last year, won you a trophy last year to go on top of that, and you're 3 points off top 3 this year, right? And then you got Frank. Done a brilliant job for 7 years with Brentford, year on year, coming to Spurs. We started well. Yeah, we didn't play well. And now suddenly out. And I'm looking at football now going, this is a real slippery slope. This is a real slippery slope fans are getting into here.
Yeah, no, it is. But luckily, owners don't tend to follow that suit, or certainly don't take a lot of fan opinion on board, really. But I think a lot of it is from an online perspective. Now, I'm not saying that every online fan is wrong and has got ridiculous opinions, but it does tend to be from a social media generation where this instant need for success, and if you don't do well if you don't sort of win 8 out of your first 10 games, then you've got to go.
Yeah.
I honestly think it's the way that the modern football fan is. I think the social media generation, a lot of them, that is how they maybe view the game, or they feel that to be heard, they've got to have ridiculous views. I don't know, but it is mad. It is absolutely mad. I don't think any manager should be under pressure at this point of the season, other than Ruben Amorim, obviously, because it's carried over from last season. But other than that, I don't think there's any managers in the league who should be under pressure with their job at the moment.
Oh, absolutely. It's crazy because I saw this earlier. It said It was from, I'll tell you what, let me bring this up. It was actually on Fabrizio Romano's page. Here we go. So this was said earlier, and it was Maresca saying, this morning the club showed me the stats, and we'll move into the Chelsea now. This morning the club showed me the stats. In the last 6 months, we lost 5 games, 4 of them with red cards. We need to be positive because it's what the players need, and there is no reason to be negative. Now, Charlie, let me lead on with that, okay? I get it. 2 weeks in a row, fans have seen red card. Chelsea collapsed this weekend after. I thought you had a really good first half display, by the way. I thought you were very good.
70 minutes, we were decent. We dealt with Brighton, and then it fell apart at the end.
But I get it. I get that. But you have lost 5 games in 6 months. I mean, you're less than a game a month being lost. It's, why are so many Chelsea fans upset?
Because one, they've got short memories. 2, they've set unrealistic expectations in their own minds for the season. And those expectations are unlikely to be reached because of the quality of the playing squad. You know, they've set themselves unrealistic expectations in their mind. And they clearly don't really understand how the game works, if I'm being brutally honest. We've lost 5 games in 6 months. I'm more concerned by the fact that we keep making stupid mistakes and keep getting players sent off and keep putting ourselves in really difficult positions. Yes, we've not played particularly well in any game this season, but we've not been torn apart by any teams either. You know, the games that we've lost, they're self-inflicted defeats. Bayern Munich, we gifted them 3 goals. The last time we lost, the last 11v11 game we suffered defeat in the last 6 months was against Bayern Munich in a Champions League. So, yeah, look, you're never far from crisis when you lose a couple of games as a Chelsea manager. But again, people don't ever apply context to anything. Yes, the manager was poor against Man United with the tactics after the red card, and he was poor with the tactics after the red card against Brighton. He's come out in the presser today and said, you know, look, I'm learning. I've got it wrong in those last 2 games. I need to do better as well. And taking accountability is great. And then the proof will then be in the pudding going forwards. If it happens again, we see how he deals with it. But I think a lot of people forget as well, by the way, this is a manager who's in his this is the beginning of his 3rd season as a senior coach. He had one season at Leicester and 1 season at Chelsea last season. This is just his start of his 3rd season. Yeah. He's learning, and he's going to make mistakes as well. And as long as he learns from those mistakes, that's the most important thing. You know, you can be critical of a manager for his in-game management in certain situations, like I have against United, like I was against Brighton. Doesn't mean that I think he's useless. Doesn't mean that I don't like him. Doesn't mean that I think he needs to go. People seem to feel that if you criticize the manager, it means you want him out. It doesn't mean that at all. Two things can be true. You can believe in the manager and back the manager and support the manager, but you can also criticize when he gets things wrong. The two can be mutually exclusive. It doesn't have to be one or the other. So yes, I'm disappointed with the start to the season we've had. Yes, I'm annoyed with how he managed the games against United and Brighton after the red card, but I don't think he's terrible. I don't think he needs to go. And this is someone that overachieved last season with a Champions League football and 2 trophies. He's not really been backed in the transfer market particularly well. There's gaping holes in the squad in key areas. I think he's doing a pretty decent job. And if players would stop making...
not according to Troy. Not according to Troy. He should know better, Charlie. He should know better.
But being a number 2 is totally different to being a number 1. Like being a number 2 is not comparable. You're putting cones and shit out. You're carrying out someone else's instructions. You're not the main guy. It's not. Also,
can I back you up here, Charlie? That would this sentence here. Big up, Troy. By the way, this sentence here would lead you to believe then that Pellegrini and Pep never get things wrong. This would leave you to believe that Pep doesn't make mistakes. Pep makes loads of mistakes.
Every manager makes mistakes.
Every player, every manager, every human being makes mistakes. But we want football managers to be above that. We want them to be above that. Get every sub right, Charlie. Right? So what we want,
I haven't got
11 right.
I haven't got a problem with mistakes being made by players or mistakes being made by managers, as long as you learn from it, as long as you rectify it. And the biggest disappointment for me has been that we as a team are not learning from our mistakes. The last 5 games, we've made individual errors in every single game to give goals away. We've lost 3 games in all comps this season, right? In not one of those games have we been outplayed by the opposition. We've lost because of our own stupidity in getting red cards, in gifting goals, making individual mistakes. Now, that's not a manager fault. That is a player fault in terms of poor decision making and, you know, not.
How does the manager rectify that? So as Maresca has his job, how does he now get back on that training ground and iron out these issues? Because I agree with you, by the way. I thought you were much better than Brighton at the weekend.
Yeah, miles better than them.
Miles better than them. I thought when you went to 10 men versus 10 men against United, you were the better team.
Them. Yeah.
Right. But how do you get rid of these mistakes then? What's the manager to do? Is it a quality issue?
Yeah, well, it is a quality issue as well. 100% it is. I'm not saying mistakes don't happen, by the way, because they do, and top players do make mistakes, but they make mistakes far less frequently. You know, they're not a common occurrence. Whereas right now, every game we're making mistakes. We're making poor decisions. Decision making as well. Robert Sanchez, 4th minute. You don't need to do that. You've got the whole game ahead of you. Chalobah, there's 40 minutes left. You know, let him try and score. He might miss. It might be a save, or at least it goes 1-1. You've got your 11 men, and you've got 40 minutes to find a winner. You know, decision making is really difficult. You know, right now, players are making the wrong decisions. Players aren't using their brains. I think that comes with a lack of experience and a lack of maturity as well, which is a problem. Within the current setup. I guess as a manager, all you can do is just constantly drill repetition, and just. But again, when making decisions as well, when there's a lack of leaders, a lack of experience, you know, a lack of players to guide these younger guys through difficult moments, you're learning on the job, and you've got to find out the hard way. And unfortunately, a lot of these players are finding out the hard way right now that they're making stupid mistakes.
Well, look. Before we move on from Chelsea, then a couple of people have made comments about what you've said about Chelsea not being Maresca not being backed. Now, I've always said, and you know, I've always said this about Chelsea. Whilst I don't feel sorry for Chelsea in any way, shape, or form, I do feel that you've wasted a lot of money.
Oh, mate, wasted loads of money.
I've always said that when people say, "Oh, they spent 1 billion, 1 point, whatever," right? That I don't think that necessarily means you should just be winning titles. Now, what I mean is this. So you got Spilver Spurfer, big up to you. I love that. Spilver Spurfer. I said, Maresca's not been backed in the market by what standard? Then Paul has said Maresca has been backed and that all Chelsea managers get back with money. Now, there's my problem with it, Charlie. The money thing, yes. But we've talked about this every week, right? You've spent money. I don't think you've bought quality when you needed it.
And this is what people are struggling to distinguish the difference between, is that I'm not saying he's not been backed in the sense he's been given no money and no new players have come in. I'm speaking from the fact he's not been backed in a sense where he's not been given top players in key positions, and we haven't upgraded the squad enough and improved the team enough for him to close the gap on the likes of your Liverpools, your Cities and your Arsenals. He's not been backed in that sense. Maresca being backed this summer would have looked like a top goalkeeper, a top centre-back and a decent striker. That would have been backing the manager. That would have been properly backing the manager. I'm not saying he's not been backed in terms of finances, because he has been backed in terms of finances, but in terms of quality, you know, he's not been backed in the positions that he needed to be backed in the positions that he asked for.
Yeah. I think it's crazy. Like, look, we've had this chat. This is nothing new. By the way, guys, we are 4 subscribers short. 4 subscribers short of 23,000.
Oh.
And Charlie, I've even gone as far to say, if we get those 4, I'll give away 5 memberships. 4 of you for 5 of me, if you will. So, look, if you haven't smashed the subscribe button, please do, guys. It does mean the world. And if you haven't subscribed to Charlie, why not? Charlie's a great content creator. I know that Charlie and I are probably not screamers and shouters in terms, and what I mean by that is We probably haven't got those viewers in our channel that just say really ridiculous things all the time. Like everyone wants to scream and fight and your shit, your shit, your shit. But we will give you content every day. So smash that like button. Please subscribe to me. Please subscribe to Charlie as well. My mods, if you would put Charlie's link in again, that would be great. And my link is pinned in the chat. Look, what I would say about Chelsea is this. Actually, let me read this out. Big up Terry. Always speak sense, Terry. Said, when I look at Chelsea, I don't see their model as backing the manager. They're backing their model, buying and selling. The manager is just there to manage what he's given. Different to, say, an Arteta. That's bang on, isn't it?
No, it is bang on. But because that's the situation that we're in right now, is that every Chelsea manager that comes in knows that you are going to have next to no say in the actual players that come in, and your job is to coach what you're given and to improve what you've given and to try and make a successful team out of what you're given. The manager can suggest profiles that he would like in the squad, but ultimately the scouts recommend to the directors, and then the directors will make a decision on the players. And we've discussed this before, but I think we're seeing early evidence that Maresca's not happy with a number of the players that were signed for big money this summer. And that is a problem in itself. So, yeah, this is where kind of the model lets itself down in a way. Sorry, that as a manager you're kind of hamstrung a little bit. That's why I say it doesn't matter who the manager is. Whilst we're operating this way, there is a ceiling to how much you can achieve. You know, you can win cups with this team, of course you can, but in terms of consistency over a 38-game season, we're still a long way off it. Yeah,
I mean, look, very last thing I'll say on Chelsea before we move on. I just look at your squad, and then I look at Liverpool, Arsenal, and City.
It's nowhere near as good.
By the way, you know, Charlie, we've known each other for years now. You know, I'm not the sort of person that looks at the table and goes, "Oh my God, Sunderland and Crystal Palace are going to get champions."
They are, mate. They are. That's definitely happening.
Cream rises to the top. And I fully expect that within 10 games, that will be, in no particular order, City, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Chelsea. I do. Problem is, I look at your squad, I look at City's, and I look at Liverpool's, and I look at Arsenal's. And I just think I think you've got a good squad. I think you've got the fourth best squad. I just don't think you've got what they've got. I genuinely don't.
We don't. Of course we don't.
You don't at all. I looked at Arsenal yesterday. We're going to move on to them now, mate. And I hate saying this because I'm a Spurs fan, but what a squad Arsenal have got. They are bringing off the bench players that walk into most Premier League teams in the country.
And the key thing as well, Savva, we spoke about this before, is that Arsenal are now bringing off the bench players that were starting for them last season. That's where they were the regular starters for them. That's where they've made the biggest improvement now, is that their starters last season are now their squad players, and they've brought in better players to go into that starting 11. So whilst I still don't think Arsenal have got the best 11 in the league, they've definitely got the best squad. And yesterday was a big moment for them in terms of mentality, in terms of response, in terms of do they have that mindset to go and win big football matches? And they answered in that instance. Whether we can see that over a 38-game season remains to be seen. But I think that was a really important moment for Arsenal yesterday in terms of they've struggled at St James's Park. They were down in that game as well, even if perhaps they didn't deserve to be. I felt they actually played very well. I felt I didn't think Newcastle were particularly good. Talking about making defensive substitutions, trying to protect a lead, I felt Eddie Howe got that horribly wrong and played into Arsenal's hands in the second half. But yeah, it's a massive. That was a huge result for us. I know it's only end of September, but that could be a big moment for them going forward.
And the fact that they were a few minutes away from losing the game entirely.
Yeah.
So that will give them a huge boost. Look, let's talk about the instance in that game. Listen, I have to be careful saying this because as a Spurs fan, if I mention this, it doesn't matter how level-headed I try to be, I'm going to be accused of being biased for being Spurs. But this whole poor us narrative that the manager and the players are coming out with after the game and most games. Let's start. For me, I'll say, you might disagree. We've not talked about this, Charlie, right? We've not talked about this. For me, that was never in a million years a penalty on Gyökeres. The goalkeeper did not touch him, and he flung himself to the ground, and I think they came to the right decision. Why on earth are the Arsenal players and the manager upset they didn't get the penalty?
But I think it's one of them where I didn't have an issue with it being given. Like in real time, you see that, right? You're watching it on the TV, you see that real time. Your first thought straight away is penalty, right? You know,
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So with the splits, my thing of it is, right, I can see why that's not given. I can understand not being given. I think the bigger issue here is why that doesn't meet the threshold of a blatant error. You don't see that in real time and think, oh my God, what an absolutely disgraceful decision. That's my point here, where I don't feel there's enough. We could argue all day about whether it was or wasn't a penalty, but there's not enough in that for me to suggest that that was a massive mistake was made, giving that on field in that split second. If you get what I'm saying, it's not a clear and obvious error, is it? And so, I
think the difficulty is though, right? Listen, this is why I kind of hate VAR in a way, because I feel all the wording is used, right? Let's look at the incident though on its own. You are right, Charlie. In real time, you watch it and you go, I can see why that was given. Sure, I can see what was given. When you actually slow it down, what frustrates me is he wasn't touched. He wasn't touched. You can see he wasn't touched. You can see that Pope pulls his leg away, and you can see that Gyökeres simulates some falls on the floor.
He kicks it into him, doesn't he? The ball. Yeah.
Right. So in the end, wasn't the listen again? This isn't Spurs v Arsenal. This could be anyone I'm talking about. In the end, I just when you're saying what was I watching? Watch it. He wasn't touched. The goalkeeper pulled his leg back. It wasn't a blatant penalty. I'm sorry. I'm not having that.
Do you know what the problem is though, Savva? Is that we'll see something. We'll see a similar incident in the next couple of weeks that will be exactly the same, and that will get given as a pen.
Of course.
That's the bigger issue, I think, here is a lack of consistency where that's not given as a pen, but then next week something very similar or the same will happen and it will be given as a penalty. So I think it's a lack of consistency that's a major problem. But in isolation, I didn't have an issue of that being given in real time, because my first thought was, that's a blatant pen as soon as I seen it on the TV in real time. And I think VAR's treading a slippery slope here where it's essentially re-refereeing the game. And that was never the intention of it. The intention of it was to come in on clear and obvious errors. And I'm sure we can both agree on this. That wasn't a blatant error in terms of giving that pen.
Yeah, look, I'm looking at the pictures now. And again, it depends which way you want to look. But for me, I don't think those are penalties. I don't think they're penalties. I think the goalkeeper's moved his legs out of the way, and I think Gyökeres runs into him. Right? But I do agree. Where I agree, to show that I'm not biased, is what fans get frustrated with, whether it's Spurs, Chelsea, Arsenal, whoever, is that next week, one like that will be given.
Yeah, exactly.
And for me, I didn't think it was a penalty. But then again, what are we thinking about the old Gabriel?
See, this is the thing, right? I don't think anyone knows the handball rule, and that's the biggest problem in itself.
Exactly.
Like every person you speak to, every referee, every ex-referee, every current official, Howard Webb or whatever, everyone seems to have a different interpretation of what the rule is, and that in itself is a major problem. Now,
absolutely,
that wasn't given because apparently it deflected off his shin and onto his arm. I don't know. I don't really know. Look, you could argue that did they not give that because of the situation with the earlier one? Like, whether you agree or not, referees do make decisions based on if they've made a mistake earlier, they'll give something that they perhaps wouldn't normally give. That does happen, and that in itself is probably another issue as well. But
I want to ask you a question, right? I'm not saying you're my age, but you're old enough to remember, right? Is it deliberate? Right? So for me, before the Arsenal fans go mad at me, by the way, I don't think the Gabriel in normal football, I don't think that's a handball. I don't, because I think if you give a handball every time a ball hits a hand, you're just going to have 5 penalties a game.
Because what you're doing now is, right, you're getting players that are just smashing the ball into a group of players and just claiming a handball.
And that is why I would like to go back to, was it deliberate? Now, hear me out. You are going to get mistakes. With the whole is it deliberate thing, I'm very aware that we're going by, again, the word deliberate is very much an individual feeling, right? So you might do something and I go, it was deliberate. And you turn around and go to me, but it weren't. Who's right, me or you? But I would rather that the refs did that than go, it's hit his arm. All of this unnatural position. Let's talk about that, Charlie. All of this unnatural position. Defenders are taught when they're growing up, well, when they defend, they're side on, right? So let's look at fullbacks. Fullbacks are taught to be side on, right? Naturally, to be side on, I'll stand up for this. You are not side on like that.
No. You're setting yourself. Arms are a little bit out to the side. Yeah.
You are balanced. So what's happening in modern day football is, you're right. People are getting down the wing, whipping the ball across them, because the defenders, like, people go, what's his arm doing out there? Well, who runs like that?
Mate, it's exactly the same. It's like when players jump to try and win a header. You don't jump with your arms by your side, do you? You jump and you have to arm up to sort of shield. And people are giving penalties for players who are jumping and their arms in the air. And I'm like, when has anyone jumped with their arms by their side to get any sort of leverage? That just doesn't happen. And now, as you rightly say, Savva, you've got players who are defending with their arms behind their back. Yeah. It's like that. There needs to be clarity and there needs to be consistency. But those, unfortunately, are two things that I just don't think we're going to get at all at any stage. Right.
Because for me, I look at, and I'm sticking up for Arsenal here, by the way, so before people call me biased, I look at that ball and I think Gabriel is what, 1 yard away from, was it Alanga?
Yeah, proximity's got to come into it as well. Yeah,
he's 1 yard away from him, right? And the ball shot. What's he meant to? Is he meant to? He's diving to the ground again. If I dive to the ground, I don't dive to block a ball with my arms by my side. I go down, balancing so that I can hit the ground and support myself. So I don't think either of them were penalties, by the way. I actually think in the end, both decisions, I know they were different how they got there, but I think both decisions were correct, Charlie. I think both of them weren't penalty kicks for me.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like the ref is getting a hard time.
Yeah, look, I think, if both were given, I don't think you could be outraged. But with both given, with both not given, I don't think you could be outraged either way. I think it's one of those where if those are given either way, I don't think you can have too many complaints. But football fans, it's natural. You always like to complain. Arsenal have got this thing for referees where they feel there's a conspiracy against them, and every decision, every sort of marginal decision or whatever that goes against them, they feel it's like a corruption against them, conspiracy. Refs are out to get them and whatnot. Look, all we ask for is consistency.
Yeah.
That's it.
Problem with it.
And that's my problem, as I said earlier, is that we'll get similar decisions to both those instances that will get given as penalties.
Yeah, I see. What makes me laugh is so big up Marios. By the way, Marios is someone who wants Frank out, by the way. Every time Spurs don't win a game, I hear Frank out. Right? Now, I'll ask this question. Now, let's bring up this picture, right? And a picture can do a lot of damage, by the way, right? A picture can do a lot of damage. But this is the still shot. Now, we've got to be really careful, Charlie, because football isn't played in a still shot.
No.
But when you look there, Gabriel's gone to ground. If you go to ground, how can both of his arms be on the floor?
They can't. You're not gonna slide in like that with that arm that's up down by your side. Like we're not pretending we're asleep on the floor here. Like it's ridiculous. Like But I also think the proximity has to come into it as well.
Sure,
Like,
he's 1 yard away. He's there and there.
Look, if he's if he's 5+ yards away, I think it's a definite penalty. But proximity has to come into it. You can't just blast the ball against someone's arm from a couple of yards away and pretend that, you know, oh, that's a penalty, that's a handball. Yeah, but I also feel like if that's outside, if that's not in the box, that probably gets given. That probably gets given if it's not outside the box.
No, sure. But the thing is, there's
got to be there's a higher threshold for a handball in the box than there is outside the box, and I think that's problematic as well. A handball's a handball wherever it is. There shouldn't be a higher threshold for a handball in the box than outside the box.
This is why they've convoluted the rules. The rules used to be nice and simple, and yes, there were mistakes, but you know what? It was kind of like, when there were mistakes before, I felt like it was one of those ones where, well, we got this one, we won't get the next one, or we got that one, we yada, yada, yada. Now it just feels like the Arsenal fans, what annoys me about them is, bearing in mind, I've just said that I think one decision was for them and one was against, right? So I've been balanced. Every decision that goes against them, they're now coming out and going, we don't get these decisions. Yeah, and you're like, you know, look, I would say that Gabriel, for me, you've got to go, when you go down as a defender. I mean, listen, take John Terry, like one of your greatest ever defenders. John Terry flung himself in front of anything. That man would take a bullet to stop the ball going in the net, right? But he never dived in like that with his arms by his side. And the problem is now, players don't help, because any time the ball hits somebody there,
it's an appeal straight away.
There. It's VAR. The managers are doing it.
There was some yesterday, like it hit someone in the sort of here, and they're going mad for handball. You know, and anything that's anywhere near the arm, they're all over it.
Yeah, and listen, I think it's crazy. Machina Joe, listen, what I will say is, listen, and by the way, Chris C is one of my really good mates, and I have really good conversations with him. The problem that Chris has is when Chris comes on to my channel and explains about, he's a qualified ref, Charlie. So he's a qualified ref and he coaches refs. Okay. He says the difference is he talks about it from the actual law. They're not rules, they're laws. That he talks about it from the perspective of the law, right? Yeah. Football fans, we talk about it as football fans. So Chris, what he does is he gives you the definition that he isn't saying is right or wrong. He's saying the reason that wasn't given is, and then fans go, you're a mug, you don't get it. And he's like, no, listen, I'm just giving you the law. I'm not saying that the referees agree with every law, but I do feel like they need to simplify them, Charlie.
Yeah, the problem is that there's too much.
Fan should get a list.
There's too many. The rules are open to too many different interpretations. You could ask all the refs to explain a rule, and let's say there's 10 refs. You ask them to explain a rule. I reckon 4 or 5 of them will have a different interpretation of the rules compared to the others. That in itself is a problem. Your rules need to be interpreted the same way by everyone, and the fact that they can be interpreted in so many different ways is a major problem.
Listen, I completely agree with you. As I said, if you ask, then again, now spin it. If you ask any football fan the offside rule, you ask any football fan the handball rule, you're going to get a million answers. There should be, like, handball was it ball to hand to ball? Do you know what I mean? Did I, as a defender, the ball's coming over here, did I go, boom?
Did I make my body bigger to block the path of the ball?
Did I purposefully move towards the ball? Or the ball's hit my arm, I'm defending, ref, he's 2 yards away, what do you want me to do? Right? Yeah. So I think it's common sense, but
it's too subjective.
Of course. Mate, absolutely. And this is true as well, Destiny 5, that the laws change.
All the time. Yeah.
They change way too often. And by the way, Marios, I've got screenshots, mate, of you. Every game Spurs don't win, you come into my chat and the first thing you say is Frank out. Marios, it's ridiculous.
The
and then you say, I don't want him out. dude, I think we all want to see Xavi Simons in the number 10. I also understand that we all asked for a coach that tries different things. Then we get a coach that tries things, and if it doesn't work, we hate him for it. You know, you've got to careful what you ask for. Hey, let's look at Liverpool. Let's look at Liverpool, Charlie, because Chelsea did everybody a favour. No, they didn't. Crystal Palace did everybody a favour. And it was at that stage in the game where you thought they've bloody nicked it again, haven't they, Liverpool?
Mate, I couldn't believe it. I was at Stamford Bridge and little notification come through. Oh, Liverpool have scored, and it was like what 90th minute or like 88th, 89th. It's like, oh, how do these lot keep doing it? Do you know what's mad though? Palace should have won that game 4 or 5-1.
Oh,
mate, they had so many chances, and they absolutely battered them. That's the first time in quite a while where I've seen Liverpool convincingly second best to a team. Obviously, PSG in the first leg in Paris, I know they ended up winning that game 1-0, but they were absolutely battered in that game. That's really the first time since then, but arguably the first time in the Premier League for quite a while where they've been convincingly outplayed and convincingly second best in every department.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I watched... I was trying to watch the first half while the game was live. My feed was going in and out, but Palace just chance after chance after chance. They looked hungrier, busier, more physical. I wasn't impressed with Liverpool at all, but second half, the pressure, right? You would expect it with the level of play Liverpool got. The pressure counted. They got the goal, and I'll be honest, when they went, there's been another goal at Crystal Palace, you thought
right at the end,
you're thinking Liverpool have won this, and then when they said Palace have won it, and then it's gone to VAR, and you're like, they're gonna get away with it. I think I speak for all football fans other than Liverpool. Very welcome for the Premier League in general that defeat happened, right?
Yeah, of course. You never want to see like one team run away with it. Obviously, I don't want Arsenal to win anything, so I would have quite liked it to have been a draw, maybe, or whatever. But yeah, look, it's important, and it's great that for Crystal Palace as well. By the way, aren't they like 18 or 19 games unbeaten in all competitions?
18, yeah, they're 18 unbeaten.
They're putting together a really good run. They're very competitive. They give all the top teams a really good game, and yeah, they could do something decent this season. I'm not saying they will, but I don't see why they couldn't finish like top 8, top 10. Why can't they? I think the Conference League.
I'll tell you what is going to be their Achilles heel. Their Achilles heel is going to be, I think Crystal Palace have got a really good team. I think they've got a great coach. I think they've got a very good team. Yeah. Problem they're going to have is the problem most teams have when they first go into Europe.
Juggling the squad.
Juggling. Have they got, listen, you turn around and tell me, I'm going to try and, the 11, right? Henderson, Munoz, Richards, Guehi, Lacroix, and what's Mitchell, right?
Mitchell,
Then what? Hughes and
Wharton and Hughes, yeah.
Right, for example.
Ismail Assar, Daichi Kamada,
and Mateta, right? The Spanish winger, right?
Oh yeah, Pino. Pinto. Right. Sorry, Pinto. Yeah.
Now you tell me that, I look and go, what a really good 11 that is. It's got everything it needs for that formation. They bought the right people. Square pegs, square holes. Everything works great. Now look beyond that. And if they're getting to a stage where they go, right, they've got to play twice a week. So and so's not fit, right? Like that's going to be for me. And if they navigate that, hats off to them. If they navigate that, hats off.
They're more than good enough to win that Conference League. And if I was a Crystal Palace fan, I'm not saying sacrifice the league by any stretch at all, but to get into Europe, you're not going to have like the conference. If you're a Premier League side in the Conference League, you should be winning it. Let's be perfectly clear about it. You should be winning the Conference League as a Premier League side, or at bare minimum making the final. And I think Crystal Palace are more than good enough. They've got a manager who has won in European competition. They've got a squad who have experienced winning trophies in the recent past. And that, for me, is going to be their best route into Europe. I'm not saying give up on finishing top 7, top 8. Absolutely not. But winning the Conference League has got to be their number one aim this season, surely.
Well, I mean, absolutely. Listen, I'm going to keep my powder dry. Listen, I think Palace are a really, really good team, right? I think Palace are a really, really good team. 18 games unbeaten, winning the FA Cup, winning the Charity Shield shows you that. The question's going to be for me, the 3 questions. One is going to be the rotation.
Yeah.
As this goes on, I mean, so far, if I'm not wrong, they've only played a qualifier in the Conference League.
Yeah, so they played 2 games, so two-legged qualifier, yeah.
So as that starts being nearly every week in the Conference League, let's see what their results are when they come back from conference games, right? Secondly,
that Thursday, Sunday is tough, to be fair.
It's very tough.
It's grim.
The second thing is going to be if they get a couple of big injuries, right? If they get a couple, like if Mateta goes out, that sort of thing. If Wharton goes down for third is going to be the obvious, the elephant in the room. Glasner's contract runs out
end of the season
in May, June. So as that gets towards the end, do clubs start coming in for him? So, for example, Chelsea sack their manager, United sack their manager, Villa sack their manager. That's going to be the question mark. People are going to go after Glasner. And if Glasner leaves, what's the club like? Do they just continue being how they are? Does the new manager play the same way? So I think they're very good. But for me, it's going to be a tall order for them to be anywhere near where they are in 32 Premier League games time.
Yeah, and of course it is, because you look at Crystal Palace and their last few finishes in the Premier League, they're mid-table. And so that suggests that they, can't really deal with, balancing those multiple competitions and whatnot. I remember when Glasner first came in and they finished that season strongly, I tipped them as an outside bet for European football through the league last season. And it didn't quite happen. Didn't they start last season horrifically? There was no wins in their first 7 or 8 games?
I think it was
or 6 games or something like that.
I think it was something like 8 games without a win, and then they played Dr. Tottenham. And
yeah. but it was 6, 7 or 8 games without a win. They're obviously better now. Glasner's got his feet under the table. The players suit the system perfectly and whatnot. I just don't know if Palace have got that consistency over 38 games. I don't think they've got enough quality and depth in their squad, and a couple of injuries could be a problem. If Mark Gurhey leaves in January, that could be a problem as well. These are all little things that they need to deal with, but they've made a brilliant start to the season. They're a really good team, and they should be aiming for a top half finish and a Conference League win.
Yeah, look, yeah, it is what it is, right? It is what it is. Let's see what happens with Palace. But listen, I think it was good that Liverpool lost. Listen, I'll be honest, as a football fan, I get it. There's Spurs fans in the chat saying, well, I want Liverpool to run away with it so Arsenal don't win it. As a football fan, though, I find it really boring when one team runs away with it. I find it really, really painfully boring.
Yeah.
And by the way, as it stands, I still think, Charlie, people will laugh at me. People will laugh at me. You might laugh at me right now. I still think City are going to have a big say in this. I think City are slowly turning a corner. They're not losing games. They're scoring goals again. And I've got a feeling, Q this weekend, they'll lose now. I've got a feeling they're going to go on one of their runs. I do. So I'm hoping out of Liverpool, Arsenal, City, I'd prefer City to win it, if I'm honest.
They look very decent, City. I have to be honest. They do look very good. But yeah, look, I'm just anyone but Arsenal. That'll do me.
Yeah. No, I understand. I understand it. And look, I just think as a football fan, I found last year painful. No title challenge, no relegation battle. It was all a little bit like, oh, this is really run-of-the-mill, boring stuff. Look, let's have a look at, it would be rude not to talk about Wolfie's lot, wouldn't it, Charlie? I think we've got an obligation.
They're shit, aren't they, basically?
Let me try and be, look, everyone knows my feelings on the manager, so let me try not to.
He's only been there 5 games, but still, you would have expected some sort of a lift, some sort of an impact. And other than the Betis game, they played well against Real Betis in the Europa League, but obviously threw it away 2-2. But I mean, I've not been outside of that game. I haven't been impressed with them in any of the league matches. They were awful against Sunderland, I felt. Obviously against Arsenal, fair enough. He'd barely been there. And then what was the other game? Then they drew 1-1 against Burnley.
Yeah.
It's not been a great start.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at, I mean, let's have a look at them. So Nottingham Forest here. I mean, they're sitting in 17th, but let's have a look at their results. So let's go back as far as, so this is since Ange came in, right? There we go. Help if I shared the screen. So this is since Ange came in, if I'm not wrong. So you've got the 3-0 defeat, and listen, yeah. I would expect Arsenal to batter Forest.
Oh yeah, exactly, yeah.
Then a really bad result against Swansea, being 2-0 up and losing that 3-2. 1-0 against Burnley.
Poor result. They were ahead in that game as well. I think that's a poor result. We've got to be honest.
Betis, they were winning 2-1 and then let that slip.
They played well in that game, in fairness, but still, they couldn't see the job through.
Sure, and then
that's a 1-0. That's a horror result.
1-0 at home, Sunderland. Now, look, it is only 5 games, and look, whether I like a manager or not, I'm not going to turn around and just go get him out. And it's funny. I think it's ridiculous. Like, you've had 5 games. Problem that they've got is the games coming up aren't getting easier. I think they've got Chelsea. They've got
who have they got? We play them after first game back after the international break. I don't know who they've got in the league next.
There you go. So they've got. I mean, on Thursday or whenever, they've got Midtjylland at home in the Europa.
They should win that.
They've got to win that. Then they've got Newcastle away in the league.
Oh, they're fucked. Yeah.
Right. Then they've got Chelsea at home in the league. Right. Then they've got Porto at home in the Europa. Then Bournemouth away in the league. So his next 3 league games are Newcastle, Chelsea, and Bournemouth.
Yeah, that could be no points. Genuinely, that could be 0 points.
If and again, I don't think managers should be sacked this quickly.
No,
but the problem that you have now is the Forest fans already. By the way, when I say the Forest fans, Charlie, I don't know every single one of them. But by and large, and again, a lot of it is very reactionary. I get it. But the Forest fans aren't happy. That's after 5 games. So what if they get that league game, those 3 league games in the next 8, and they've still not won a game? I mean, it's very difficult at that stage to turn the tide, isn't it? Very difficult.
Yeah, it is tricky. I mean, look, I don't think Marinakis has done Ange any favors whatsoever by parachuting him into, after the transfer window and after pre-season. Why he didn't put him in for pre-season and the transfer window is beyond me. Just to bin a manager off after 2 or 3 games, that to me didn't make sense. You're always up against it big time when it's not your players that have been signed and you've had no time to implement your system or work with the squad at all. So that I think he's been hard done by there. But you've got to pick results up. Forest spent a lot of money, by the way, in the summer. They signed a lot of players. They bought some good players.
Did you see their bench? They
got good players.
This was their bench on the weekend, right? And I'm not going overboard like, oh my God, they should be winning title, right? But on their bench, they've got Gibbs White, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Amari Hutchinson, Igor Jesus, Callum Awundo, Yates, Sangare. Like, when I look at that bench, I'm thinking
decent players.
Yeah,
good players. Yeah, I just don't think they've got confidence right now. Confidence is low. They just need, I think, one result, like one positive result, could see them pick up a few wins on the spin. But
sure.
But Ange has shown that he's not really learning. Like, in the early evidence so far, he's shown that he's not really learned from his time at Tottenham. They're conceding a lot of goals still, struggling to score goals.
Someone sent me a clip over the weekend of our mate Sanad, right? And I tried, Charlie, to tell them every week on Football's 12th Man podcast and whatever, that Ange likes to play his fullbacks in midfield. I tried to explain that. And everyone told me negative, wrong. He hasn't got the players to do it. Wolfie did a little bit on Zinchenko's positioning throughout the Sunderland game. And he's like, this guy is never at left back. He's never, ever at left back. He's in centre mid. And I'm telling you, Charlie, you can't do that.
Zinchenko's actually a midfielder anyway. He's a better midfielder than he's a left back. So why is he playing him at left back?
But sure. But the thing is, now what you've got is you've got the left-hand side where you've got absolutely no cover. And myself and the Spurs fans, we saw this for too many years. We saw this for too long.
Yeah.
But the Forest fans have picked up on this in 5 games. And the problem is, when Ange came to Tottenham, let's be fair, we weren't all watching Celtic week in, week out.
No.
And if we were, it's Celtic in the Scottish League, right?
Yeah.
I think these Forest fans have got the hindsight of all of the Spurs games that they would have watched.
Yeah.
And now they're going, right, prove to us, though, prove to us that you've learned and you can adapt. And if he doesn't adapt, this isn't me hating him, but if he doesn't adapt,
he'll be gone.
He's going to have no one else to blame, is he?
No, but he'll be gone. And that's the reality. And like, I just don't understand why he's seemingly just not learning from any mistakes. You know, you can get away doing that in leagues like Scotland, in Australia, in Japan, where there's maybe 1 or 2 teams that are good and you're constantly better than all the rest. You can get away with that. You know, that's not going to be as big a problem. You come to the Premier League, you can't do that. You will get exposed and found out very, very quickly. And all managers make mistakes, all players make mistakes. We discussed that earlier. Ange is not learning from his mistakes. And that for me would be, as a Forest fan, that would be my major concern is that this manager is not learning from his mistakes that he's made in the past.
Because when you look at this, right, that Nottingham Forest squad is not the 17th.
They've won one game this season.
Was that their first game?
That was their first game of the season against Brentford at home.
Wow. I mean, but it shouldn't be 17th, right? That squad should not be sitting 17th in the league.
No, of course it shouldn't. They spent loads of money. They got decent players.
It's going to be tough for them because the thing is, we've said this before, we'll say this again. They've literally swapped the pragmatic, hard-to-beat mindset to the polar opposite. This is now the polar opposite of that. And fans can say, Wolfie said to me after Betis, right? This is what Wolfie said to me. I love him to bits, by the way. I'm not mugging him off. Me and him do the show together, right?
Mug him off.
No, I won't. He said to me, it's the best I've seen us play. I said, yeah, that's fine.
It's a low bar though, isn't it?
But how long do football fans go, we're good to watch, but we don't win games? Like how long does that last, Charlie? In your mindset, a new manager comes into Chelsea. You haven't won for your first 5 games. You go, but I like what I'm seeing. How long until you go, yeah, but this guy's not picking up points? Yeah,
exactly. There's only so long that lasts, and I tell you now, it's not very long. Look, Forest are going to find out the hard way. This guy just doesn't learn, or hasn't learned, refuses to learn, whatever you want to call it. And I just wonder if Forest are just totally confused, because clearly they didn't like the Nuno style of football, and yet they've gone to you couldn't get a more polar opposite manager coming in. No. I wonder if Forest are just lost in their identity of what they actually want to be. I get it, you've got to be ambitious as an owner, but I think Marinakis thinks Forest are way bigger and way better than what they actually are. I think he's got ideas above his station in terms of what Nottingham Forest are. Nottingham Forest, big football club, great history. Let's be real. You are not a big Premier League team. I think he's got ideas above his station personally, and look, I got no issue with managers aiming big and trying to crack into the top 6, top 7 of the Premier League. I just feel that he thinks.
Didn't we say this to Forest fans, Charlie? Yeah. Didn't we say this to Forest fans? We said to them last year when they were not all of them. It's not all Forest fans, but when we were being told by lots of Forest fans coming into my Spurs chat that we're bigger than you, we're better than you. And I'm like, well, hang on, slow down. This is the first year that you've been back up in the top fighting for Europe for 25, 30 years. Yeah. Now the second season's hitting home, and it's like, now, don't get me wrong, Forest could win the next 4 games and we're all having a very different conversation.
Yeah.
If Forest don't win for a couple more games, suddenly now that's Europe out the window already early, because if you fall behind that top 4, 5, 6, 7, it's very difficult to make ground again, isn't it?
But they're winning Europa League, aren't they, remember?
I can't see it. I can't.
No, I can't see it either.
We'll see with them. Message me, Silent Stuart. We'll see with them. But for me, I think they need to pick up results and quick. Right? Stephen, by the way, big up. Stephen's a Forest fan, so big up to you, my man. He's always nice as well to me, so that's nice. Says, I was more than happy with Nuno Ball. It got us results, and that's all I care about. Stephen, let us know in the chat. Without being rude, I know you're never rude, to be honest, but keeping it clean, what have you made of the first 5 games? Like, give me a sentence or a paragraph. What's your feelings as to what you're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I think under Nuno, they got worked out in the last 6 weeks of the season. The last 6 weeks of the season, last season, Forest were pretty poor. They lost a lot of games. People have found out how to play against them. They were easy to play against. But Nuno wasn't doing a bad job at all. By the way, people forget, Nuno wasn't sacked for footballing reasons or for results-based reasons. He was sacked because of a falling out, because of Adu coming in, because of transfer targets and whatnot. That's why he went. He didn't go for footballing reasons. So Forest weren't unhappy with Nuno from a football perspective. There was obviously a massive disagreement behind the scenes, and they felt the situation was untenable. I just question the direction of Forest and not really knowing what they want. That, for me, is the biggest problem.
Yeah. And again, this all boils down to, and by the way, we're all guilty of this at times, Charlie. And listen, I've been guilty of this in the past, is that you go, I don't like the manager, don't like his style, right? And I get that, right? But the thing is, if I don't like one style, what it doesn't mean is I want to go from here. I don't want to go from 1 to 10 or 10 to 1. I want a manager that can meet in the middle. And this is where I think, if I move this slightly to Spurs, this is where I think Spurs fans are struggling with Thomas Frank. Thomas Frank is starting at the back. You can see Thomas Frank is starting at the let's be difficult to beat, let's not lose games, right? Whereas Ange was, let's start at the front, let's try and score loads of goals. Now, the problem is if you don't meet in the middle of that, fans get frustrated. So what Spurs fans are seeing now is we've gone from the all-out, let's just throw bodies forward, to, well, we're a bit more pragmatic now, but this style's getting results. But they're still not happy, Charlie. Is this a be careful what you wish for scenario, or
I think it was a case of, by the way, I'm not grouping all Forest fans into the same thing when I say Forest fans, but getting too big for their boots. They got a taste of the high life and thought they were better. Do you know what I mean? It's like when you fly business class one time, but you can't really afford it, and then you think you should be in there every time.
Yeah. And then you're on a Ryanair or EasyJet flight.
And that's almost what Forest have been like last season. They got a taste of like the business class lifestyle, and now they want to stay there, but they haven't got the facilities to be there. If that makes sense. I know that's might be a bit of a strange analogy, but I just feel like they've got too big for their boots. Some of that fan base, and again, I go back to the owner. The owner's done great stuff for Nottingham Forest. I think he's got ideas above his station in terms of what he thinks this club can be. If we're being brutally
he's got
honest,
illusions of grandeur. Is that what? That's what he's got, right?
I'll be honest, Savva. I think Forest are a team that, at best, could be a solid top half Premier League team. I'm talking 9th or 10th. Might get into Europe the odd season. Might go deep in a cup. I don't see Forest as a team that are doing what an Aston Villa or a Newcastle have done, where they can get into Champions League, qualify for Champions League for like 2 out of 3 seasons or back-to-back seasons or whatever. I don't see that. And I think that's what they think they are. That's what they think they can be. And that's fine to be ambitious, but I just don't think they've got it to do that.
But why rip up the formula? Now, listen, hang on, let me go back. Many teams have a great year and then you don't see them, right? Some teams have good years and stay there. Look at Bournemouth. Bournemouth, year on year in the Premier League, you could see they've got to grips with it. They know what they're buying. They're solid, right? But they're not changing their identity. Forest have ripped up the formula that got them back in Europe. They've ripped it up. So they've gone, this is the formula, and someone's gone, don't want that. We want this. Now, I think if you have 2-3 years of being up there, Charlie, I think then you can turn around and go, yeah, we're up there, but now we want to mold to a different team. They've had 1 year of being up there and gone, let's go and be this. It's a dangerous game. I'm not saying it won't work, but it's dangerous.
Mate, it absolutely is. This absolutely is. You are playing a dangerous game. You really are. And it's a classic thing. It's like West Ham after David Moyes. Be careful what you wish for. West Ham were fed up with David Moyes. He won them a Conference League title. And look how poor West Ham have been since Moyes left.
Right.
I'm not saying that Nuno is like the second coming of Christ or whatever, but he'd done a good job there last season.
It worked.
And it worked. And I think a lot of the time, owners get greedy. They see, what they think, what they could have, and they make mistakes. And unfortunately, I think Forest could be about to learn the hard way here that they've made a massive error.
Well, we'll see, because look, they've got their ex-manager Nuno. We'll talk about this and then we'll wrap up. By the way, you lot smash the like button, you frauds. Not even 100 likes yet.
Oh, guys.
Yeah, he's poor. It's poor, and we are 1 subscriber away from 23,000.
Oh, come on.
One subscriber away from 23,000. Look, we've got to talk, because this was the biggest news of the weekend. Whatever happened, this was the biggest news. We knew it was coming. It had to eventually happen. Potter. There were no surprises, were there, Charlie?
No,
Saturday morning when that news came through?
No, none at all. But I think the issues at West Ham are far greater than the manager. Massive problems with David Sullivan, massive problems with things behind the scenes and the ownership and whatnot. Yes, probably Potter didn't do well enough, but I do feel a bit sorry for him, and do feel that, any manager that goes into West Ham in this current scenario is going to have issues. Nuno should make them defensively more stable, will pick up a few results, but the quality of the playing squad is not really good enough. And whilst Sullivan's there, and whilst it's being operated like that, I think it's going to be very hard for any West Ham manager to have a level of success that the fans would be happy with.
Yeah. I do think, though, what Nuno will do, I think he will do exactly with them what he did with Forest. Now, I'm not saying he'll get. Yeah, I'm talking from a playing style. I'm not talking about, oh my God, they're going to get Europe. I now don't think that West Ham will have any worries about relegation. I don't. I think that he'll make them hard to beat. And it'll be interesting to see if that does happen. How do the West Ham fans react? Because you hit the nail on the head just now. They weren't happy when David Moyes played like that. They wanted to go more attacking. And since
look at that. They had Lopetegui, who was a disaster, and they've had Potter, who was a disaster. So they've had back-to-back absolute horrendous managerial appointments after Moyes. They can't really afford for this Nuno one not to work out.
Sure. And I think they've got enough play. I look at West Ham. They should never be in the bottom 3.
No,
I don't care what anyone says.
I agree. I agree.
Not be in the bottom 3. Let us know in the chat what you think. We are going to wrap up in a minute, but we are still 1 subscriber away. I can't believe it. 1 subscriber away from 23K. Looks like we'll have to wait for another day for that to happen. I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen lots of reports flying around in the last hour that apparently Ward-Prowse is getting dropped from West Ham.
Ward-Prowse is bang average anyway. I think he had Ward-Prowse at Forest and barely used him. So, yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Is it at Everton tonight?
Yeah.
Was it at Everton? It's at Everton, yeah.
That'll be a tough game for West Ham.
Yeah, what are you going for? Give me a score prediction.
I think with Nuno in, I think it might be a draw. I might go for like a 1-1 or something.
Yeah.
It feels like a 1-1 kind of game.
Yeah. I might be completely wrong, but I think it's going to be a real tight, tedious affair. Now, Q tomorrow we'll be talking. Oh, they've scored. It's 4-4. We'll see.
Yeah.
But guys, listen. Look, there's always something to talk about in the world of football, and it's no different over here on this channel. So please show some support for Charlie. Please get over there and subscribe to Blue Brother CFC. We're 3 likes away from 100, so smash that button. Join Charlie and I again tomorrow. Let's just see who's live, shall we? So we can.
There's always someone.
There's always someone live. There is indeed. Let's have a look at this. Okay, so come on, YouTube. Here we go. Right. Oh, there we go. Right. So who's live? Customization, redirect. Let's have a look. So at the moment, I'm not going to send you over to TalkSport. I'm going to say the only person I can see who I'm connected to is I'm going to send you over to Troops, because Troops is always good fun. So get over to Troops. When you get there, just type in Savva Raid. Much love. No mention of the Saliba contract. We can talk about it tomorrow. I mean, for me,
well, it's not that big a deal, is it?
I don't think it's great big news. If I'm brutally honest, Angus, maybe that's the sort of thing the Arsenal fans can chat about amongst themselves. Saliba signing a contract, it's good for you lot. It means you get more money if you get a big buyer coming in, and he probably gets a pay rise. So I think it's win-win-win for everyone, right? So there you go. Listen, when you get over to Troops, just type in Savva Raid. Much love, guys. Take care. And come on, Nuno. Go on, Nuno, tonight. Get yourself a point. See you later. Take care. Bye-bye.